Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the podcast. I'm Angela, and I am super excited to have with me here today Chris Lippincott. And Chris is an international psychic medium, spiritual teacher, best-selling author, and the host of the Spirits Beside Us podcast. Through his evidential readings and unique insights from spirit, Chris has transformed lives by providing comfort, healing, and the profound reassurance that our loved ones in spirit remain close and continue to care for us. Chris's mission is to elevate the spiritual awareness of humanity by sharing spirit's healing messages through his mediumship, teachings, books, and frequent podcast appearances. As a trance medium, Chris channels messages of love and healing from his spirit guides, offering listeners a direct link to spirit's wisdom. Chris also teaches the fundamentals of mediumship, guiding those on their spiritual journey toward a deeper understanding of spirit and the afterlife. So thank you, Chris, for being here today, and welcome to the podcast.
Well, thank you for having me on, Angela.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. I'm excited about all that you have to offer and finding out more about you. So tell the listeners a little bit about how you got into doing the work that you do now.
Well, it certainly wasn't pre-planned, that's for sure. I guess you could kind of go back to way back when I was a child, around 6, 7-ish. At the time, I was talking to the trees, the bushes, the energy, whatever was out there, and I was having a great old time. And I started having these conversations with what I thought were make-believe playmates. And I was like, oh, this is a grand old time. I must have a great imagination, right? The thing I didn't really realize, of course, hindsight's 2020 now, but when they could talk back to me and we could have a full-on conversation back and forth, that should have like raised some alarm bells. I should have said, wait a second, that's not normal. But what did kind of catch my attention was the fact that I'd see all these people, talk to all these people, and I'd say, hey, can you see that, so-and-so? And people would look at me like, I got 3 heads, like, what? And my parents would go, oh, that's nice. And so they'd be like, oh, you've got such a wonderful imagination. I'm like, okay. And so I just wasn't really thinking anything of it. And, sometimes, we lived in rural Connecticut, didn't have any siblings, and I'd go to bed at night. And sometimes I'd hear voices in my room, which absolutely scared me to death. I'm like, oh my God, the monsters are coming to take me away, right? Every child's nightmare. I'm hearing voices in my room. Sometimes I'd be lying on my stomach and I'd feel a hand softly touch my back. I'd freeze up going, oh my God, they're coming now. Oh, I'm dying. Yeah. Totally mortified. Pull the sheets over my eyes, beg them to go away. I'd feel energy wrap around me. It was crazy. And then I suppressed it for all these years. Once I got like older and more logical and mature, I'm like, oh, we can't have this, childlike silliness going on. And so I, go to college. I grow up, I become very materialistic. I become greedy. I'm like, well, I got to make my mark in the world, go to Wall Street, become a Wall Street analyst, material, one of those funny business, blah, blah. And then I start getting very like stressed out. My job's like totally having a massive attack on me, and I'm like taking it out on my friends and family, and I'm like, I got to do something about this. This is not good. So somehow I came across the concept of meditation, which at the time was a very foreign concept. I'm like, wait a second, don't people who meditate have to live up on the top of the Himalayas or something, and they gotta, they dance around and do funny things? And I'm like, well, that can't be me. But I ran across a track that was really calm and had no agenda. I'm like, well, let me try this. So I listened to this audio track, and it was really calming. I'm like, oh, okay, I can get used to this. And what I found myself doing, it was only like 10 or 15 minutes. I found myself every day listening to this audio track, this meditation, before I went to work. And I was like, oh, wow, I'm feeling better. I'm getting calm. So I started feeling good. I'm like, oh, okay, good. So, of course, when you feel good and you're doing this thing and you start wanting to do it more often. So I started getting addicted to meditation. I'm like, this is great. And I keep on doing it day after day after day after day. And I didn't really realize it, but at the time I wound up getting so addicted to it, I meditated every single day for like 12 months straight.
Mm.
But I didn't really know what I was creating at the time. Um, and at the end of 12 months, that's when I had my spiritual awakening, which we can talk about. But that's kind of like, that's when the portal reopened.
Wow. Yeah. So you just, you had no idea what you were stepping into.
I had no clue. I mean, here I am, a Wall Street analyst, Mr. Material, Mr. You're all a bunch of weirdos. And then all of a sudden, that's, the next thing happens. And
Yeah. Yeah. So tell us about the next thing. I want to hear.
okay. So, I'm in it's like a Saturday morning. I'm in my man cave because every guy's got to have his man cave, right?
Mhm.
And I'm listening to my meditation. And I think I had a version that was probably like 30 minutes long. So I chose the 30-minute version. And I'm going into it and I'm really like, calm and relaxed. And I'm going, wow, this is great. And so I, I start to think, wow, this is feeling really super amazing. What's going on? And next thing I know, I see four people in spirit silhouette form or something because my eyes were closed, but in my mind's eye, I'm seeing these four people all of a sudden appear in front of me, two on my left, two on my right. I'm like, what's going on? And I, for some reason, recognized them, but I didn't know who they were. I knew them, but I didn't know who they were, if that makes any sense.
Mm.
It's kind of like that recognition feeling.
Yeah.
And the person all the way on the right-hand side was bigger than everybody else and taller than everybody else. And next thing I know, he's shooting a beam of energy through my chest, out my back, and I'm feeling it physically. I'm going, oh my God, you mean I'm not asleep? Because I thought I was dreaming.
Yeah.
And this thing kind of goes right through me. I'm like, oh. Uh, and as that happens, it's like I'm elevated out of my body into some space-like place where all of a sudden I'm connected to everything and nothing. I feel like I'm a strand of or a thread that's connected to a tapestry that has no end. So I'm connected to everything somehow. And then it just continues to expand to the point where all of a sudden I feel this overwhelming, unconditional love wash over me.
Mm.
I had never felt anything like it. The way I kind of describe it is the human word love is like the 1% of the iceberg that you see floating above the water. This was the other 99% that humans never experience below the water. I was like, I couldn't put words to it. It was unfathomable. And it just kept on coming. And it was this feeling or a sensation of total acceptance that somehow I was fully accepted for everything that I was. And the other thing was it kept on saying, "You're perfect. You're perfect. You're perfect." And I'm like, "No, no, 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 no. You don't know what I've done in my life. There's no way I cannot be perfect. Not happening. But it just kept on coming. And I'm just going, and at that point, I've got like tears coming down my eyes. I'm like so overwhelmed. And at some point, it just kind of it ends, and I kind of come back to, and I'm like sitting there reeling, going, "What just happened?" Um, and I kind of eventually kind of gather my senses, and I run over to my desk, and I start writing down everything I possibly could because I knew I was going to forget it. I was like, "I got to get this down on paper." And soon thereafter, all of a sudden, I started feeling the same senses that I had when I was a kid. I
Mm.
felt people around me. I was hearing voices. I knew people were there, but I couldn't see them, but I knew they were there. And it's like every single thing that was happening when I was like back in Connecticut, that little child, that's why I say the portal reopened all of a sudden. I was
Mm.
like, oh my God. And somehow I like started asking, Wait a second, you're connecting with me. Why me? And before I could even utter the phrase, finish the question, already the answer was coming back because you're a regular guy. Because I'm asking, I'm just a regular guy. Why me?
Yeah.
And they're like, yeah, that's right. You are a regular guy. And that's why we're connecting with you so that you can, as a regular guy, get out there and, give our word to everybody else. I'm like, okay.
Well, and there's something to that, because you can connect with regular people, so to speak,
Yeah,
being
yeah.
a regular guy. Yeah.
Right. Exactly. And that was the other thing. It's like, and so for the longest time after that happened, I kept on having this struggle of, is this real? Am I going crazy? Because I started thinking to myself, okay, there are only two kinds of people in the world who can hear voices. They're either these gurus or these fabulous, incredibly powerful people, or they're crazy people. Well, I know I'm not a guru and I know I'm not really powerful. Oh my God, I'm going insane. So I thought I was absolutely bonkers.
Oh,
I thought
yeah.
the men in little white people coach are going to put me in a white coat and drag me away. I was like, oh, I'm done. I've cracked.
Oh my goodness. And so when this all happened, like, were you able to connect with other people and talk to them about what was happening to you? Or is this just all you're dealing with it internally?
Yeah, that's a good question. In the beginning, it was all me because I didn't know what was going on. I knew I was connecting to people beyond me. I started getting the concept that, hey, wow, these are people that are spirit. They're based on everything I had just experienced. I'm like, okay, that's probably what it is. And I started doing a lot of research because remember at the time I was a research analyst, so
Right.
I just default to my usual stuff. And so I start doing all this research. I'm like, oh, wait a second. That's something people are called mediums. That's what they do. Oh, wow. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is really cool. And so I like start doing the research. And I start seeing big names like James Van Praagh at the time. He was really big. And I start seeing some of their readings. And what blew me away was the concept that people would come to the mediums in these states where they are just so forlorn. Their life was gone. I mean, you could literally see that there was no light under. They're you know, grief stricken, and they'd come to them in these videos, and all of a sudden, the medium would start bringing through all these pieces of evidence, clearly identifying the communicator beyond a shadow of a doubt, things there's no way they could even possibly know, and start kind of painting them back into life, right? Painting them back into reality. And you'd see the faces of these sitters just light up.
Hmm.
And at the end of the videos, they're just like totally transformed. I'm like, oh, that's what I want. That's what I want to do. Oh my gosh, yes, that I want to do that. So immediately I knew that I wanted to connect people who were in, whose hearts were ripped asunder, and I wanted to have their loved ones who were trying to reach them, but clearly couldn't be heard. I wanted to bring them and I wanted to connect them. Oh, I knew I wasn't anybody special. I knew I was just kind of like an instrument, a vessel. I tell people I'm nothing but a relay station, right?
Hmm.
And so I'm like, hey, listen, Spirit's just using the relay station to talk to you. It's kind of like the way we use relay stations for cell phones. Same thing. That's all I am.
Yeah, and yet such profound work because I know for a fact for myself, those messages were very comforting and really inspiring for me because I believed that, and I still do, and I really know that, my husband is still with me, he's helping me, he's guiding me, he's doing all kinds of things
Yeah.
in the background. And so when you have that comfort and that knowing that they're there, it changes everything.
Yeah, and that was why I was so excited to see these sitters just literally transform before my eyes
Mhm.
from completely no light on their face, just broken, to the radiant smiles of happiness and joy. I was like, oh my gosh, did you just see what happened to that person's face? They're
Mhm.
a different person completely, just because they finally heard their loved one come through. And they realize, oh, they didn't really die after all. Maybe their physical body died, but
Mhm.
their personality, their consciousness is still alive. It never dies. And that's the concept I keep on trying to let people know, is that our consciousness is always alive. It
Right.
never dies.
Yeah, and that's a huge piece of the healing, in my opinion, because
Yeah.
the physical body for sure, we're missing that. We're absolutely missing that. And I felt my grief coach helped me a lot with that piece. And but just knowing that he was there was really comforting. And we all can receive those signs and messages in some way if we're
Hmm.
open to it. I believe that too. And
Yeah.
so when I'd get those signs, it was pretty exciting. And I still get pretty excited when I get things from Blaine.
Oh, sure. Absolutely. And that's the whole thing, is that, and another thing I tell people is that everybody has the ability to connect. Everybody is a medium. Why? Nothing beyond the fact that we all have the non-physical senses still residing in the hind brain at the brainstem. Our ancestors used that to survive before we ever had a frontal lobe. But now we have a frontal lobe that's dominant, and we have allowed the non-physical senses in the hind brain to go quiet. We don't use them anymore.
Mm.
But the funny thing is, we still sometimes do. Gut reaction, instinct, all these things that we think are something else. It's nothing but our non-physical senses that we're still using to this day. So all you got to do is allow them to rise to the surface, allow them to be used, because right now they're just lying dormant. If you actually use them and practice them, then guess what? You can connect. And so many people connect without a medium. So many people connect and communicate with their loved ones because their loved ones are A, so close, but B, that connection is there and they know they can, they talk all the time. It's not unique or it's not unusual. People have that
Mhm.
experience all the time.
Yeah. And this is something you teach, I understand.
Yeah, what I do, I mean, I do two things. One thing I try to do is try to connect with people who don't want to, go into mediumship proper, but I'll connect with people who, just want to learn how they themselves can connect with their own loved ones. Because that is very much the whole concept, and I've got an entire community that does that. It's called the Soul Growth Circle, and everybody's on the same page. Everybody's trying to support everybody else. Everybody's from the position of, I want to learn more. I want to grow more. I want to, have these abilities that are already innate within me. I just want to be able to learn I can use them. And so that's what that whole circle is about. I also, teach budding mediums who want to become that relay station for others. So it's both from a professional perspective, or not even a professional perspective. It's more like, some people just want to do it because they love the experience of helping others. But, some people just want to be the relay station.
Very cool. I love that. So tell us more about the spirit guides and how they work.
Yeah, that's a great question. Spirit guides essentially are just spirits who are farther along the path than we are, because we all live hundreds of lives, right? Spirit guides are just at a point where they have incarnated so many hundreds of times, they're not going to be incarnating anymore. So now what they do is they turn around and say, okay, well, I want to start helping other people. And there's literally, it's kind of amusing to think about it, but there's literally a school for spirit guides. I don't want to call it a school because it's probably a bad name for it, but that's a concept. Training grounds, maybe? I don't know. But there are different levels of spirit guides, different, just like there are different levels of angels, I guess, if you want to think about it that way. But they're just like people who have just started learning, people who have learned, and each level kind of works with the level below it. But the overall concept of spirit guides is that they have finished incarnating. It's now their desire to help others on their journey. And the analogy I use is it's kind of like your grandfather who's lived on the earth long, long time, knows everything there is to know about living on the earth, and can give you advice about everything that you could ever possibly want to know because he's already been in your shoes. And that's the beauty of spirit guides. Because they've lived those thousands or hundreds of lives, they know all the trials and tribulations that we go through every day. They're like, oh, yeah, I remember that. I remember doing that. Yeah. So it's like they're able to give you that advice based on the fact that they've already been there, done that, and they can help you with it. Now, the trick becomes that, oh, that sounds all well and good, but the trick becomes, how are they going to do that? Because we have free will, they're not allowed to interfere in our lives and influence our lives to the point where we would do something beyond what we would normally do. So I kind of refer to them as silent advisors. They can kind of give us little nudges, they can give us little hints, but if they were to influence the direction of our lives, that would interfere in our life path, and that would kind of be cheating on the test of life, as it were. Because if you want to think about it, we're here on the Earth School to learn specific lessons, go through different grades of the Earth School. And if somebody gives us the answers on the test, then how are we going to learn the lessons that we came here to learn? So if the guides can't give us the lessons, they can kind of nudge us in a certain direction and kind of help us along the way. But that's why everybody says, well, why aren't they talking in my ear? It's not their job. Their job is to kind of nudge you, give you signs, give you hints, kind of, say, well, maybe you might want to consider that option. But they're never going to take a bullhorn and go, hey, do this.
Right. Yeah.
That's your ego mind. Your ego mind will definitely take the bullhorn and go, hey, idiot, go there.
Well, and that's my experience, is that generally I will get little messages here and there through all kinds of different ways. It's interesting. It can be something out in my physical world outside. It can be a license plate. That actually happened this morning. Or it can be like I feel really drawn to connect with somebody, and then I get some message from them, and it's just, I find it fascinating. I really do.
Yeah, and to your point about that, I mean, what guides will do is somehow put things in your path that you didn't expect. Maybe they'll put a friend in your path, and all of a sudden that friend will start talking about the thing that you wanted advice about. Or the license plate will suddenly pull out in front of you, and you're like, hey, wait a second, that license plate has the word gobbledygook, whatever it is. And you're like, yes, I hadn't even thought of that.
Yeah.
Or you hear something on the radio and you're like, oh, yeah, great idea. It's like, it's uncanny. And everybody says, oh, that's just a coincidence. There's no such thing as a coincidence. There's synchronicities, but there's no such thing as a coincidence.
Yeah. Yeah, I truly believe that too. Yeah, there's all kinds of reasons why these things happen. So,
and that's just the spirit guides putting things in your way.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so the other thing I want to ask you is, we were talking about spiritual growth through this. And I mean, the guides have been a big part of my spiritual growth, but also this huge traumatic incident of me losing my husband has been a huge springboard, I will say.
Oh, wow, yeah.
Spiritual growth. So what essentially is it? How do you define it?
What is spiritual growth?
Yeah.
Well, that's a great question. It's a big question. Probably you could drive a truck through it, but the concept is that that spiritual growth is defined as when you, as a spirit in the afterlife, are trying to say, okay, well, I want to find a way that I can level up. I can increase my vibration. I can become a better being. I can learn new things and elevate myself in new ways. So, how do you do that? Because the spirit world is so perfect and there are no challenges in the spirit world, how are you going to learn? The only way a person learns is through trials, tribulations, challenges, overcoming things. It's like telling the 5-year-old child, "Don't touch that hot stove." Are they going to listen to you? No. But
Yeah.
when they touch that hot stove, they will never touch it again. That's a lesson. So everybody says, "Why is Earth so darn hard? Well, I have to go through all these pains." That's the only way you learn. You learn through pain. You're like, "Oh, I'm not going to do that again."
Hmm.
That's where our ego mind actually comes in. Everyone says, "Oh, the ego mind is terrible." Yes, but the ego mind also is a reminder of don't do that again. Um, so
Right.
spiritual growth is the concept of going through all those painful experiences, painful lessons, and learning something from it that you might not have otherwise learned. And quite often, people look at tragedies in their lives as, "Oh, woe is me." Yeah, it hurts. It sucks. Oh my God. I mean, we all had life contracts, that we wrote up before we ever came here. Those soul contracts that we created so that we could learn different things were arduous, and in fact, our advisors, before we ever came down, always warn us saying, "Hey, wait a second. Are you sure you can handle that? We don't think you should do that." But because everything is so hunky dory in the spirit world, we're like, "Yeah, let's go do that. I want to learn these things." You're like, "Oh, wow, I can do that. I can do that." And the advisors are saying, try to tone it down, take that part out. But more often than not, we, trying to take up too much than we can. Nevertheless, we write up a soul contract. We've got all these lessons. So we're like, okay, I'm going to put in the fact that I get run over by a bus. I'm going to put in the fact that I break my leg. I'm going to put in the fact that my loved one uh, dies at age 20. I'm going to put in my soul contract that I get cancer at age 30. I'm going to put in the contract that I lose my child, whatever it is, right? And everybody thinks, "Oh my God, these are such horrible things," but they're intentional because the idea is we learn from them. I mean, you said, "Oh my gosh, when my husband died, it was horrible." Yes, but I've grown so much. I've learned so much. And in some cases, people feel I'm not growing. I'm not learning. What could I possibly learn?
Hmm.
Well,
Right.
look at it from the other perspective and think to yourself, what are you experiencing now that you are would not have experienced if your spouse had not transitioned?
Hmm.
It's like saying, okay, well, we would have lived happily ever after. Well, you don't grow. You
Hmm.
go through the pain and the trials and tribulations and all the difficulties. Wow, you are forced to grow.
Hmm.
Yeah, is
Yeah.
it painful? Sure, but that's the point. Does the 5-year-old child enjoy the pain of touching the hot stove? No, but are they learning something? Absolutely. So
Hmm.
that's the whole concept of spiritual growth. Spiritual growth is allowing the spirit to learn new things that it could not possibly have learned any other way through trials, tribulations, but also expanding its understanding of true reality. When everybody looks outside and says, "Oh, look at those horrible people outside." it's not so much the fact that they're horrible people, it's the fact that you're actually creating your own reality, because everything that we experience on a day-to-day basis, everything we see, everything we hear is merely an illusion. These bodies, these meat suits that we carry, nothing but containers. In fact, they're not even containers. Under quantum physics, there's nothing physical in existence at all. 99.999% of everything in existence is empty space. So
Right.
when we think we're touching our fingers, we're not. It's actually just electron repulsion. We don't exist. We're just energy.
Mm,
So what spirit is. Spirit is energy. So everybody says, "Oh, how can spirit, live on forever?" Well, it always has, and it always will, because energy can either be created or destroyed. So this thing that we look at the meat suit, it's just the transition and changing of states. It's like ice melting to water, boiling to steam, turning to plasma. It's just changing states. That's all it is.
mm. Yeah, I like that scenario, like the transitioning, because we've talked about that before, transitioning from state to state. Yeah,
Yeah.
interesting. And yeah, I've been told before that, life is kind of just like a movie, like you're almost just like,
Oh, 100%. Yeah, that's a perfect analogy. That's what I try to tell people all the time, is that the movie is the illusion. You can either be the actor living in the movie, experiencing the movie, or you can be the observer watching the movie and saying, "Oh boy, I feel sorry for that actor. I feel sorry for that character. That must suck." Or you can be the person in the movie going, "Oh, woe is me."
right.
So, what would you rather do? Would you rather be the person in the movie theater eating the popcorn, watching the movie and going, "Wow, that drama is really pretty intense," or the actor inside the movie going, "Oh gosh, I feel terrible." I always tell people, be aware of being aware. Be the observer.
Right.
When you step out of that state of getting caught up in the rat race of the everyday existence, and you step out of the movie, you step out of the play, and you become aware that there's a play going on, there's this movie going on, that there's this false illusion happening, a false reality, and you step out and you become the observer and you start watching as a third party, and you're like, wow, your perspective just radically changes.
Hmm. Yeah, and that happened to me early on, in my awakening, or I could really see her, Angela, going through all of this.
Yeah.
And for a while, I made the big mistake of thinking that, well, then, if I'm just a spiritual being, then it's all good. It's all good. And,
Hmm.
and then I realized, no,
Yep.
actually, I still am human. And so there are times where, yes, I have to acknowledge that I am human and that there are times where things do get overwhelming and the emotions come up, and I have to acknowledge that
Yeah.
in some way. Yeah.
Hmm. Well, and the other thing is, look at yourself and say, am I my emotions? Am
Mm,
I my pain? Am I my body? Who am I really?
right.
Your spirit. Does spirit have pain? No. Does spirit have emotions? They feel for you, but they don't really carry the same emotions that our ego mind contains.
Mm,
So it's very much of a make sure that you're looking at life through the right perspective. Are you looking at it from the human perspective, or are you looking at it from the perspective of the true reality that is not really what you think you're experiencing?
right.
Because if you remember the famous saying, we are all spiritual beings having a human experience, not human beings having a spiritual experience.
Ah, yes. Very cool.
Yeah, so that's the thing to always kind of keep in your head. It's like, do you want to be the fish in the fishbowl, or do you want to be the person looking into the fishbowl at the fish?
Right. Right.
Because the goldfish doesn't know if there's anything out beyond that fishbowl. We do.
Yeah, and life is always, like you say, there's those challenges, the growth opportunities, and they come in all different ways. Just when I think that, I've kind of mastered something, it seems like there's something else that comes along, and I'm like, oh,
Hmm.
yeah,
Totally. Well, yeah, when we think that we've got something down pat, we're like, all right, perfect. Now I've got it all. You realize just how little you really have. You're
right.
like, oh, wait a second. You mean I've got more? And you just find out you're like, oh, I've got this thing to do, and I got this thing to do, and I got this thing to do, and then you just start feeling yourself like you're sinking in quicksand, going, wait a second.
Right.
Why why do I suddenly feel like I am not able to control my life?
Hmm.
Well, there is no life to control. Remember, if you're the observer, you're just watching. You're
Right.
just letting things go by. Now, that's not to say, okay, you just want to sit in your chair all day and stare out the window. That's not what I'm saying either. I
Yeah.
mean, you definitely want to participate in life, and that's one thing Spirit always comes through and says, live your life to the fullest. We are meant to come to the world and to live our joy.
Right. Right.
There's really no purpose in being here unless you're allowing your joy to be everything that is. So joy is everything that we came here to experience.
Mm.
Live your life to the fullest. For tomorrow you may go back to spirit.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, you obviously have had challenges in your life. I mean, you can't be here and not have them, right? So,
I could give you a laundry list that would, we'd be here for days.
so, when you're going through that, walk us through your approach to that. Because I think there's a lot of people watching this that are probably in one of those challenges right now. And they're probably going, oh, yeah, okay, I'll just look at it like a movie.
Well, yeah, they'll probably be going, wow, yeah, that sounds great. I'm just going to look at it from a movie. My mortgage, forget it.
Yeah.
Bills, forget it. They can go scratch. Not going to happen because they're going to come after you nonetheless. That's what I'm
Mhm.
saying. There is a balance that has to happen here.
Mhm.
Um, I mean, for example, when I was really young, and I was living with my parents. I mean, my parents were raging alcoholics. As a kid, that just completely messed me up. For years later, it probably had massive effect on me. So, that's the kind of thing where you're like, okay, are you going to sit and twiddle your thumbs and go, oh my God, I can't do anything about this, or are you going to go and realize, hey, wait a second, there's a reason you're experiencing this, there's a reason you're undergoing this. This was something that you wrote into your soul contract between you, the person who was to take on the role of your mother, and the person who was to take on the role of your father. They agreed to do that for you, and you're learning something tremendously. Did I come out of it a different person? Hell yeah.
Mhm.
I mean, did I learn a lot? Now as I look back at as a grown adult, I look back on it. I'm like, was I affected? Yeah. Was I messed up? Yeah. Did I grow? And how?
Mhm.
Because then I can look at it from the perspective of a different lens and say, what does it feel like to be on the receiving end? How can I then turn around and do that same healing for others?
Mhm.
It's like the best doctors are the doctors who have undergone the pain and suffering of their patients because they know where they've been. Maybe they've had the same disease, maybe they've had the same problems, or some of the best lawyers, trial lawyers, are those lawyers who always start out as defense attorneys. So they then go to, I mean, they start out as prosecution, sorry. And then, so they know all the tricks of the prosecution. Then they go on to become trial lawyers as defense attorneys. And they're like, Okay, now that I've learned all the trials and tribulations of being a defense attorney, I can apply that to be, um, defense as opposed to the prosecution. So it's like if you're able to live in one set of shoes, you can apply all the lessons you applied and that you learned there and apply them somewhere else.
Mhm.
Because everything you go through in life is going to have some lesson that you can carry with you, even though you say, "Oh, I don't have a lesson. I'm not learning anything. This sucks. I don't want it." Well, no, nobody wants it. But is it a lesson? Absolutely. Can you apply it? 100%.
Mhm.
And if you can apply it to somebody else and help somebody else with it because of your experience, that's where the magic happens. That's where the glory is. Can you imagine bringing healing and happiness to somebody else through your experience? My God, what else are we here for?
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's, as I interview people, and it's been, like 170 now, I hear that over and over again. People have gone through these traumatic experiences. They've come out the other side helping people in that, in some way, shape, or
Yeah.
form. They find a
Hmm.
way to really bring their, well, it ends up being their soul's purpose, really,
Right. Yeah.
to life, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean that's just the the example. I can think of clients, for example, who I got to know after our sessions. I can immediately think of one woman who uh, her husband passed. She was absolutely grief-stricken for the longest time. He came through in several readings, and she was transformed as a result. So what did she go and do? She started helping all of friends of hers who had lost their husbands.
Mhm.
So she became like the spearhead, like this healing group. So it's like, she's in their shoes, but she knows what it's like to get out on the other side, like you were just saying.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I would say along the way, I mean, I got closer and closer to connecting with my husband or spirit guides or angels or whoever. Sometimes I don't even know who I'm connecting with, but I'm connecting with
Yeah,
somebody.
yeah.
And sometimes they get an earful. Like sometimes I tell them how bad
Hmm.
it is down here.
Oh, yeah. Hell yeah.
And they're always so gracious.
They are. And that's the beautiful thing. It's like they're always filled with love beyond measure to a level that we can't even begin to perceive. Um, but their capacity for love and understanding is huge. It's just never ending because that's all that exists really is love at different vibrations, different amounts. You're either filled with love or you're not filled with love, and there's like a spectrum in between, right? So that
Right.
you've got that. They're filled with love, and they also are, they're trying to help those who either can't help themselves or need help from others. They're not going to step in the way. They're not going to say, "Oh, well, let me take care of that for you. Let me
Right.
remove your pain." It doesn't work that way because then they know that that's your soul contract that you're undergoing. And the number of times I've said to myself, I signed that soul contract?
Yeah.
What was I thinking?
Why would I do that? Makes no sense. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, oh my God. But then I'm like, all right, I guess I knew something.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
The spiritual amnesia.
Yeah, and like you said before, if we knew all the answers, then there'd be no point in being here.
Right.
So it's like,
Yeah.
so how can people find you?
Sure. People can find me on my website, www.montclairmedium.com. I've also got a YouTube channel, Chris Lippincott. Like I mentioned, I've got the Soul Growth Circle where people just come together to support one another, and they've got this wonderful series of learning. We do weekly sessions, monthly workshops, all kinds of things like that. And also, I encourage people to do meditations. I mean, I've got a free meditation on my website that's just really something about, it's like a 10-minute meditation where it teaches you how to connect with spirit and connect with your own inner peace. And it's at montclairmedium.com/free dash meditation. So, go there for your meditation and find inner peace, find your connection with spirit. It'll really help.
Very cool. Yeah. And I love that because that's how you got started.
Exactly. Remember, that's I
Yeah.
kind of inadvertently, found my path through meditation. It's like, boy, if I had only known, if I had only known. Beware. You too could be doing this.
Yeah. Yeah, that's so cool. So, is there anything else you'd like to add before we go?
Yeah. Always follow your heart's true desire. Always follow your true north, because your heart is your inner compass. It will never leave you down the wrong path. If you're figuring out, oh, should I follow my head? Should I follow my heart? Always follow your heart, because your head is your ego mind. It's biased, it's selfish, it's not going to help you. Your heart is so big. If you are thinking that you're in a place of pain, that's okay. But just remember that the amount of love that's around you and already in you and already for you is so strong. Receive love. And before you can give others love, love yourself first. Only then can you then give others love.
Beautiful. I love that. And with that, thank you again for taking the time. I really, really appreciate it. And I know the listeners are going to appreciate a lot of this as well.
Well, great. Well, thank you so much for having me on. It was such a pleasure.
Yeah. And thanks everyone for listening. And don't forget to subscribe. Bye for now.